Hi, this is Keith Weaver with the Top Executive Strategy Podcast, where CEOs, COOs, and business owners share strategies for success. This is 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best strategies are concise business advice. So we're going to get right to it. So first question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Perfect. My name is Adam Moore. I have a PhD in marriage and family therapy, and my wife and I are co-owners of Sela Health. So that's an outpatient mental health clinic, or I guess a series of clinics. We run them in Utah and Nevada. And I specialize in out-of-control sexual behaviors like extramarital affairs and pornography use. And we've been doing this since 2013.
Wow. Some heavy issues that you probably deal with, it sounds like.
Every day of my life.
So question number 2, what's the best thing about being a business leader?
For me, it's endless opportunities for growth. So no matter what I've achieved in my career, there's always another hill to climb. There's another milestone. I'm never bored, which is really important for me to not be bored.
I understand. I have a little ADHD, so I understand that. So now question number 3, I hear from other leaders that people strategy can often be more difficult than the actual business strategy they deal with. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah. People strategy versus business strategy. I think that's accurate. I think people can't be boiled down into formulas. They're unpredictable. And in the business world, a lot of times I see business owners treating people like objects, like pawns in a chess game. If you're not going to treat people like objects, you have to actually care about their experience, and that means you have to actually learn about people. This is both customers or clients and employees. I have an advantage because I'm in the business of human behavior change. I'm a therapist, so I have to know people strategy. But most business owners, I believe, would really do well if someone's going into business. I think they should get an undergraduate degree in a social science and then go get an MBA. Or if they're already in the workforce, I think they should do some courses or some study on social sciences to understand human beings, because at the end of the day, human capital is the most important capital we have.
Well said. I like that. Question number 4, what strategy would you like to share with other business leaders?
So the thing I think that's been most influential for me in my career so far is going outside of my own industry to learn and to innovate. So, every industry has its own standards, expectations, norms, terminology, etc. When you join an industry, you have to learn all of those things. You have to learn how people do business in that industry. But it's also really limiting because then you start to see the world from that very particular context. I think innovation, adaptation, it's best done by learning outside your industry, people that think really, really differently than you do. So my goal is always to learn from the very best teachers or experts in other fields that have nothing to do with mine. My field's mental health. So I'm looking to people that are completely outside of my industry, because I think you can transfer expertise between fields of study. So like Philo Farnsworth, the one that invented the first TV camera, and he noticed how fields were being plowed in farms in Idaho. And he used that farming information to spark an idea on how to capture images. So some examples of things that I've done that are outside of my industry. My friend Jeff, who also owns a therapy clinic in St. George, Utah, he taught me to use the Baskin-Robbins pink spoon method. So we do consultation calls with clients. They call and they want to find out if we're a good fit for them. And so instead of just answering questions like how much do you charge per hour and when are you available, I try to offer, and I have my employees try to offer, a little microtherapy session to a person. It's a 15-minute call, and we'll say things like, well, tell me a little bit about what's going on. And we'll either offer recommendations right then and there in this free consultation call, or we'll say, this is how I would approach this issue. And because we do that, we find that probably 80 to 90% of those consultation calls turn into clients. Whereas my therapist, when they first start and they're not using that method, it's maybe half. So that's really important. I don't read a lot, and I'll talk about that in a second, why I don't read a lot, at least books. I don't read a lot of books. But I read this book called Wired for Story, and it's really a book about how to write great fiction. And I'm not a fiction writer, but the book really is about how to activate dopamine in people's brains to keep them invested in what you're talking about. So I've utilized the content of Wired for Story to tell stories to my therapy clients to get their brains activated and motivated for change. That's not what the book was about at all, but that's what I gleaned from it. Another thing I do, it's kind of interesting, I like watching magicians and how they do their tricks. So I like to watch behind the scenes videos on magicians. I've learned as a therapist that people want to believe in magical solutions to problems. And so if you can offer them a magical, mystical solution, they're invested in that. They're going to jump in and try to get involved. Also, kind of interestingly, how to use misdirection, like magicians use, to get past people's mental defenses to help them change. I watch a lot of comedians because they have the ability to alter people's moods. You can almost force a person to laugh if something is funny enough, even if they're really sad, and laughing changes how people feel. So you might not see a comedian as a great mentor for a therapist, but I actually use comedy quite a bit in my therapy. And then if I were to say, like, where do I get most of my inspiration from on how to be as a therapist, it's actually from movies. I watch the great mentors in movies like Yoda from Star Wars or Dumbledore, Morpheus from The Matrix. They're all really great therapists if you look at them from that perspective. These classic mentors are like what the epitome of what human beings want our helpers to be like. And so if you can create yourself as a version of that, then you're sort of reaching into the depths of human desire and giving people what they want. So I'm always looking for inspiration everywhere, even like expert poker players, anything, anywhere. And I think that allows business owners to innovate in ways that you couldn't if you're just staying in your lane in your own industry.
That's awesome. Like you said, a lot of different industries you pull from. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So question number 5, what other successful leaders like yourself would you like to acknowledge and would be a good guest on the podcast?
I thought about this, and it's less about specific individuals and more like a type of person. So for me, I always want to hear from elite experts in fields who are either retired or about to retire, because they don't have to play politics anymore for personal gain. They stopped caring about what people think because they're done, their career's over. So they only speak the truth. And for me, people that speak the unabridged truth, those are the people I want to hear from, because I can completely trust what they're saying because they don't have anything to gain from it. So anybody like that, that's who I'm most interested in listening to.
Awesome. Okay. And kind of a 6th final fun question. Tell me about your favorite past boss.
My favorite, all of my favorite past bosses are actually all the worst ones because I'm constantly looking at them and taking mental notes on what I should not do in the future. So it may not be the optimal way of figuring out how you want to be in life, but for me, I guess not going with the flow is a pretty important method of functioning. So it's actually one of the reasons I almost never read books, because I only read maybe like a half a book every 2 or 3 years. I know a lot of business owners read a book a day or whatever, but I hardly read books. I don't want to imitate. I don't want to create something that's derivative of what somebody else has already done or said. It's kind of a weird philosophy, but for me, I want to create from my own lived experience rather than trying to imitate what other people have done. So rather than looking for mentors in bosses or other business owners, I'm just going, don't be like that, don't be like that, don't be like that. And then I can create sort of the person I want to be that's just who I am, if that makes sense.
I like that, not going with the flow. Very important.
Yeah.
Well, great. It's been great having you on today. Before we leave, tell people how they can find you or get a hold of you.
Sure. So our business is Sela Health, SELA health.com. And actually that website leads to all of our other ventures that we're doing. So, but if you Google Adam Moore therapist, well, anything I have out there is floating around on the first or second page of Google. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, and this is Keith Weaver with the Top Executive Strategy Podcast. And for more insights, you can follow us at Weaver Business Coaching or on LinkedIn. Best success to you.